Welcome to the Anisumo channel. You are about to watch the 5th part of the recap of a horror comedy anime called Yofukashi no Yuta, Call of the Night. If you haven't seen the previous episode, the link is in the description and pinned comment. At the end of the last episode, the protagonist, Koyamori, gets caught in the fight between the vampire Seri Kikyo and the man she calls a nuisance, trying to save him. They run away, leaving Seri behind, and it seems like they manage to escape. They stop in a dark alley to catch their breath, and the man starts talking about his relationship with Seri. He recalls how she probably felt sorry for him when he tripped. He says he doesn't care what she thinks of him, as long as he can stay close to her. Ko is about to scold him when Seri reappears, threatening to kill him. She says she's been lying all along and that she's a vampire who doesn't care about humans. Ko protects the man again, and just as Seri is about to attack, Nozuna shows up to save the day. She says Seri was naive to think she'd really leave the two alone. Nozuna then asks what's up with these four eyes, but the guy, and why Seri, who's never killed anyone before, decided to do so now. What a shocking twist. And it doesn't stop there. The nuisance tells Nozuna to let him go. He says it's all his fault and that he knew he couldn't fall in love with her because they're just friends. Seri, with no choice left, tells the truth. She says it's hard to have friends when your natural instinct as a vampire is always to seduce humans. She thought things could be different with him. Nozuna lets her go, and Seri tells the man they should stop seeing each other and pretend nothing ever happened. Ko, thinking the situation through, says she's the real nuisance for trying to kill her friend just to preserve a friendship. He suggests they just talk things out like friends. Seri admits she really is a vampire and says that even though Ko and Nozuna have this unique human-vampire relationship, that's a rare exception. Normally, vampires can't be friends with humans. She apologizes, says goodbye, and starts crying. Finally giving in to her true feelings, she breaks down, saying she doesn't want to lose that friendship. The man, on the other hand, says he doesn't want to lose her either and asks her to turn him into a vampire. Seri says that's not fair to him, but he insists. He'd rather be an undead than live a dead life inside without her. Ko can't help but feel a little envious, wondering when he'll finally be able to turn. In the end, everything works out, and they all go celebrate together at karaoke. On their way out, Ko and Nozuna run into Midori Kohokobi, who's wearing a weird outfit. She was actually looking for someone to help out at the maid cafe where she works and begs Nozuna to do it, saying she's the only one who can help without hurting the cafe's popularity. Nozuna, though a bit insulted, agrees, mostly because of the money. Ko decides to wait for Nozuna to finish her shift and sits in the cafe like a regular customer. Another maid comes to serve him and is impressed by how much the girls get into character. It feels just like an anime. After the shift ends, Midori is about to transfer Nozuna's payment when she gets an email. It contains compromising photos of the maids. Quick explanation: embarrassing or not, it's absolutely forbidden to take photos or film inside maid cafes to protect the staff's privacy. Even if you just want a photo of your food, there's a whole procedure, and your camera gets inspected to make sure you didn't capture anyone else. So these photos are a big problem, especially since the sender warns that the images are already circulating online. Ko stares at the photos intensely, and Midori calls him a pervert, accusing him of staring because she might be in them. But he fires back, saying that's not true, the photos are of the girl who served him earlier. Seeing Ko's keen eye for detail, Midori asks him to help find the culprit. The next day, before the cafe opens, he's still studying the photos when the victim, Arisa, arrives and jokingly says she's embarrassed by how intensely he's looking at her body. She apologizes and says she's sorry for not noticing she was being photographed. Ko figures out that since some pictures show her changing clothes, the only possible angle is through the window. He checks it out and sees it's too high to climb, unless the person is a vampire. Nozuna suspects Midori, but Ko quickly rules her out. He continues to examine the scene and even asks Nozuna to pose for a test shot. Something feels off. After thinking hard, he pieces everything together and finds the suspect. Later that night, Ko explains to Midori who the culprit is when someone arrives. They hide in a closet, while Nazuna tells Arisa that everyone has already left and she should close the cafe. Inside the closet, Ko explains the photos were taken after hours. Then they hear a noise at the window. Ko jumps out and catches the girl red-handed. Nazuna realizes she used the timer to take the photos from afar. After getting dressed again, Ko explains that the photos were too perfect, as if she were posing. Plus, none of them actually showed anything indecent. Midori joins in, figuring that Arisa used to be the most popular maid before Midori joined. Jealous, Arisa leaked her own photos in an attempt to regain popularity. Arisa is about to quit when Midori stops her, saying everyone has low points like that, even herself. She even compliments some of the photos. In the end, everything turns out fine, and Nazuna continues working there. Ko is waiting for her outside when Arisa shows up. Even on her day off, she came to visit. That's how much she loves maid cafes. This time, she takes a photo she can proudly share with others. After some time working at the cafe, Nazuna's apartment is looking much better. She says with the extra money, she can earn even more with her Kodo service, where she sleeps beside clients, just sleeps, and tells Ko to go find people who look tired. He wonders if he'll find anyone like that when he comes across a very gloomy-looking lady. After an awkward conversation, they move to a quieter place to talk. She's disappointed, thinking Ko was trying to hit on her. He explains the Kodo service, and she quotes a labor law that says minors in Japan can't work from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. She goes on to say that if she reports him, the shady Kodo house will be shut down. But in the end, she's just joking. Still, she warns him to be more careful next time. Ko sighs in relief and smiles. She also says she prefers sleeping alone. He mentions they also offer massages, and that gets her attention. She says she's always on her feet because of work. When Ko asks what she does, he gets excited to hear she's a detective. But she quickly kills his excitement, saying it's not like in anime or movies. She mostly investigates cheating spouses or missing people. Speaking of which, she asks if he knows someone named Okiyama Okihito.
知らないって。本当に。
Ko lies and says he's never heard of him. She narrows her eyes and grabs his wrist to check his pulse, asking again if that's true. The scene doesn't make it clear whether she catches him in the lie, but she seems relieved. Nazuna is upset he didn't bring back a client until she sees he brought beer. Outside the apartment, the detective says she just hooked a much bigger fish than she expected. In the next scene, Ko is talking to his friends outside the school, asking why they called him out of nowhere. He explains he just wants to hang out with them. Despite their hesitation, he breaks into the school, inviting them in too. Mohiru says it was pure luck they reconnected after all these years and wants to make good memories with his friends because everything can change suddenly, like when Ko stopped going to school. They start exploring urban legends, like Japan's version of Bloody Mary. They have fun sneaking through the school, checking if the piano really plays itself at night, and investigating spooky stuff. Apparently, there's one legend at their school that might be true. Around 10 years ago, one of their teachers disappeared and was never found. Some say he still appears in a classroom late at night. The friends shrug it off, calling it fake. Still, they agree to check it out because Mohiru insists, and a mysterious figure appears, saying they shouldn't be there, and that it's their fault. He tried to resist, but they forced his hand by breaking in. In a flash, he's on top of Akira. Ko is frozen, feeling like this has happened before. Tension builds as Ko attacks the man, concluding he's a vampire. But something's off. Vampires are supposed to be elegant and attractive. Why does this one look so broken and miserable? The man, lying on the ground, tells them to run. Then a voice speaks from the darkness, saying she was looking for a big fish but didn't expect to win the lottery. It's the detective. She offers her neck to the vampire, joking about being a smoker. He lunges, but then recoils in agony. The detective is shocked when he says her blood is even worse than he imagined. She suspected it might come to this but didn't believe a vampire could go 10 years without a victim. Ko asks why he didn't feed before, but she says no one wants to become a vampire. The man cries, saying he was deceived, heartbroken over being tricked by someone he loved. The detective praises his strength for resisting all this time and says she'll reward him by letting him die as a human. The man looks horrified at the object she shows him. She tells him not to resist, just hold on. She understands his pain, but now he can finally rest. Ko is furious, asking why she killed him. She snaps back, saying he didn't want to live as a monster anymore, and that she won't let Ko achieve his foolish dream either. She tells him he knows nothing about vampires and hands her business cards to his friends. Worth noting, we don't actually know how the vampire died. Was it because of the object, maybe a ring, or something about her blood? After all, we've seen Nazuna walk in the sun unharmed. Maybe because she feeds regularly. What do you think? At the end of the last episode, the protagonist, Yamoriko, has his dream of becoming a vampire shaken by recent events, and he's feeling pretty down. He's at home, sulking about what the detective told him. It seems his friend also went to see her at her office, but that's all we're shown for now. Could it be that the woman Ko's been seeing at night is also a vampire? Ko decides to go talk to Nazuna, who greets him at the door asking to suck his blood. He agrees, but when she hugs him and says she's starving, he remembers what happened and pushes her away. He tries to apologize, saying it was unintentional, but the mood has already shifted. Nazuna senses something's wrong and asks him to tell her what happened. After hearing a brief version of the story, Nazuna concludes that the vampire must have been starving to attack them like that. Ko asks if the same thing could happen to her, since she just said she was starving too, but she assures him, quite seriously, that he doesn't have to worry about that. They go for a walk and talk more about what happened. Nazuna explains that she heard vampires die if they go 10 years without drinking blood. When Ko tells her about the detective who's opposing his transformation into a vampire, Nazuna asks if he's changed his mind. He says no, but he's worried. The detective knows how to kill vampires. He doesn't want Nazuna to get hurt because of him, and he's also scared for his friends. He apologizes and asks Nazuna to drink his blood. Now that he understands his fear, he feels calm knowing what he's feeling. For some reason, Nazuna wants to visit Ko's house. He makes sure no one's home and invites her in. He explains that his mom walks away from home and his dad doesn't live with them because they are divorced. Nazuna starts snooping around his room looking for something suspicious, but finds nothing except a tissue Ko swears he only used to blow his nose. After teasing him a bit, she confronts him, saying she knows he's having doubts about becoming a vampire. She can read a bit of his thoughts when she drinks his blood. She says it's normal to feel unsure after everything that's happened, that any normal person would have given up by now. Ko responds that the reason he wanted to become a vampire was the night. The night is just more fun, even though he's learned it's not just fun. It was fine at first, but putting others in danger is a different story. He jokes that Nazuna isn't in a big rush to reproduce with him anyway, but cuts himself off when he sees her expression. Nazuna says she'll help him with his indecision. She asks why he finds the night so fun. He says it's because of the freedom, but she corrects him, saying it's because the night isn't part of his routine. He was bored of school and his daytime activities, and the night offered the exact opposite. No school, empty streets. It felt exhilarating that first night. But is he still as hyped now as he was then? She tells him that anything outside the routine doesn't last, not even for long. Being a vampire is just pure boredom. She apologizes for lying. She says she became a vampire decades ago, and for an immortal like her, time drags. Every empty day of her own life, she was just waiting for some tiny miracle to break the boredom. She gets up, saying she's leaving, but Ko still wants to talk. He stares at her, and she asks what's wrong. As he prepares to apologize for tripping and leaning for a kiss, she whispers in his ear, "Did you think I was going to kiss you?" After teasing him, she jumps out the window, leaving him stunned. The next night, Ko calls the detective and waits to meet her. She misreads things again, thinking he wants to date her. Though embarrassed at first, she gets irritated when Ko questions her. She tells him he should enjoy spending the night with her. But moving on, they start talking about vampires. The detective gives a full display of her skills, overwhelming Ko with tons of personal information about him, his age, websites he visits, even pictures he downloads in secret. When Ko asks why she's against him becoming a vampire, she acts like the answer is obvious. Vampires are evil. They trick humans to drink their blood or starve themselves out of guilt and eventually snap, like what happened at school. She asks Ko, which one does he plan to become? Before he can respond, she keeps going. She says he hasn't even fallen in love yet, even with all the time spent with Nazuna. Oh yes, she knows about Nazuna. Even her address. She says Ko probably can't become a vampire because he's likely a romantic. Someone who doesn't fall in love, no matter the situation. This clearly bothers Ko. Sensing she's winning, the detective doubles down, saying it's not enough for him to just stay human. Now that he knows about vampires, they won't let him live, and the vampire who brought him into this might get killed too. Ko says he doesn't want that to happen. So she tells him to decide. He can stay human or become a vampire and be killed by her. She says she's willing to do anything to please him if he chooses to stay human. Ko points out that he'd still be killed by vampires either way, but she reassures him by saying she'll kill all the vampires. Ko backs off, saying vampires aren't as evil as she claims. They have feelings, they respect humans, and they have their own struggles. The detective says she doesn't want to take away his precious freedom, but it's safer to take the easy path. Then she makes a phone call. She says there's been a teenager wandering around alone at night lately. She asks if that's normal, acting like a concerned citizen. Quick explanation: in Japan, minors aren't allowed out without an adult after 10 p.m. It's not exactly a crime, but police take this kind of report seriously. Ko, hearing that call, panics and runs to hide. He's terrified of being labeled a criminal, or worse, losing his freedom to enjoy the night. He manages to shake off the police by hiding in a playground slide. He's thinking about going to Nazuna's place but is scared of causing her more trouble when suddenly, another vampire appears, Hotsuka-san. She invites him over to her place. When they arrive, a bunch of crazy people rush, saying they cleaned the house and did all sorts of chores. But she doesn't pay them any mind and tells them to leave because she's having a guest over. They seem a little upset but quickly comply. Ko is completely lost. Who were those people? Why does she only have one seat in the living room? He thinks this vampire is particularly strange, even compared to the others he's met so far. She breaks his train of thought, saying she forgot a towel.
悪いんだけど、持ってきてくれない?
Well, actually, she was a male vampire. After bringing the towel, Ko is visibly shocked and even asks just to be sure, "So, you're a guy?" He confirms, adding that he was surprised Ko didn't know yet. He figured Nazuna had already told him. He uses the moment to vent, saying Nazuna never tells him anything. The scene shifts to Nazuna finishing up a conversation, saying that Ko isn't going to become a vampire anymore. She also asks the others to go easy on him and not kill him over it, and demands Nazuna explain what makes Ko so special, otherwise she'll go after him and end this once and for all. Back at Hotsuka-san's apartment, he's stunned by Ko's revelation that he doesn't want to become a vampire anymore. Ko tries to explain his reasoning, telling him about the vampire hunting detective. He suspects she let him drink her blood on purpose so she could kill him. The vampire even said his blood tasted awful. Hotsuka reflects on it and admits he's not sure about anything either. Vampires don't understand much about themselves, just like humans don't fully understand humans. Oh, did you catch something strange in that scene? Yep, his reflection doesn't show up. Interesting. Hotsuka also mentions that even Nazuna probably doesn't know why some blood tastes better than others. Speaking of which, there's a rumor that Ko's blood is especially delicious, right? He moves closer to Ko, saying he owes him for helping him hide from the police. Ko protests, but Hotsuka tells him not to worry, he looks like a girl, so it's all good. Yamori asks why Hotsuka dresses like a woman in the first place, and he explains it's because he looks prettier that way. And for some reason, both men and women are drawn to him when he presents like this. In the middle of this, the vampire's phone rings. Nazuna could really be in danger. Ko tries to get up but is pushed back into the armchair. Hotsuka makes an indecent proposal, suggesting Ko turn into a vampire through him instead of Nazuna. He points out that Yamori is 14 years old and hasn't developed any feelings during all this time with Nazuna. As a man himself, Hotsuka says he understands better than a female vampire what a guy needs to fall in love. Ko still doesn't like the idea, but when Hotsuka asks if it's because he's a man, Ko says that's not the problem. Hotsuka's face is pretty and everything. Wow, that actually catches Hotsuka off guard. He blushes and gets flustered. Ko starts a bit of an inner monologue, wondering if maybe he should go through with it just to save Nazuna. He admits that men and women will probably never fully understand each other, but wait, who's to say he'd even fall in love right now, just like that? He asks, and Hotsuka says it's actually quite simple. Unlike other female vampires who seduce their prey, he uses hypnotic powers, basically brainwashing them. That's why his offspring always look so happy. Falling in love is basically a kind of brainwashing anyway, right? Yamori immediately rejects the offer. He says the misunderstandings between him and Nazuna have nothing to do with gender. He's never understood anyone in his life, it's not just a woman thing. He doubts he'll ever understand Nazuna, or Hotsuka, for that matter. And since it's not a gender issue, he adds, even if Hotsuka were a woman, he'd still want to fall in love with Nazuna. With that heartfelt speech, he thanks Hotsuka for the help and leaves. He runs toward the building, determined to make Nazuna's nights a little less boring. When he gets there, Nico tells him he's too late. Nazuna's already gone and probably won't even be able to speak for a while. Heavy consequences were paid to ensure his safety. Ko turns to leave, saying he'll go look for her. Nico tries to stop him, saying Nazuna doesn't want to see him right now. Yamori responds, with more anger than he's ever felt in his life, telling her to shut up. That he's the one who wants to see her, leaving everyone speechless. But, oh no, he forgot about the police. Now he's about to get arrested. He starts talking to Nazuna inside his head, saying that nighttime isn't all fun and games, there are terrifying moments too. But why is that? Even though he's genuinely scared, there's still something kind of fun about it. He manages to escape, and his mental conversation with Nazuna continues. He tells her about all the cool things they've seen together, but wait, who's that? Could she be a super powerful vampire over 500 years old? Guess we'll have to wait to find out. Meanwhile, on the other side of this internal monologue, Nazuna is wondering if Ko is mad at her. But wait, here comes a repeat of the very first scene from episode 1. Ko says he's been looking all over for her. But hold on, isn't she hurt? She says no, but the other vampire said, oh, she's explaining to Hotsuka that violence doesn't work on Nazuna, and she herself hates aggression. It turns out Nazuna's punishment was to confess her feelings for Ko. That's why she was so embarrassed, to the point where she couldn't even speak properly. Nazuna starts walking away, saying it's all over now. Ko tries to tell her that before he met her, he was also always bored. He asks if she didn't enjoy spending these past few nights with him. She says that's obvious. She had so much fun she forgot she'd been bored for ages. That's why, she says, she needs to be brave and tell him that, but he cuts her off. He says it's okay. If they enjoy spending time together, they just need to keep finding more and more fun things to do so they'll never get bored again. He promises to fall in love with her, so she'll stay with him, because he's never going to let her feel bored again. Realizing what he just said, he apologizes and gets all flustered, but mostly because he knows she doesn't know how to handle these kinds of conversations. In the end, Nazuna still can't bring herself to tell him how she feels. But in her mind, she makes a promise to become a vampire worthy of being loved by him. And after the kiss, she says, we're in this together, you and me. And that's how the first season of this anime ends. Luckily, season 2 is already out, so don't forget to subscribe to catch the next episodes. Bye.